Sure.
Pre-warm-ups for the
I'll do some
chat
warm-ups.
box. Yeah, for the chat box, etc. Some rules and regs for the chat box.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are here for next session of Tuesdays with CKLS. I will be your moderator, which means I am looking at your chat box and following along that way. I will also mute you if you get unmuted and there's oversound, so don't be alarmed if you're suddenly muted. If you have any technical issues, you can try me in the chat, or if it's bigger than something I can help in the chat, I'll have you call Andy directly so he can help you outside the meeting. I will post the link to the handouts one more time. I have changed the permissions, so it should just automatically take you to the folder with all the handouts in it. But again, if you're not having any trouble, or if you're having trouble, let me know, and I will help you through the chat. So I'm going to take it away with, let Margie take it away with her Pathfinder tips and reports.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mary Beth, and welcome back to Tuesdays with CKLS. We were on hiatus for the month of March. We were off at the PLA meeting in Philadelphia, so it's nice to be back. So today's topic will be how to get the most out of Pathfinder reports, plus how to perform a few tasks that you may have wondered about. For the first part of the presentation, I'm going to cover some reports that are available in Pathfinder that you can use to capture data about circulation, your patrons, and the collection. And I know some of these reports may be familiar, but some are probably going to be new to you or might have been adapted to work for all of the Pathfinder libraries. So these reports may be ones that you would like to add to your workflow to help things kind of run a little bit more smoothly, or to help you keep track of your collection and your patrons a little bit better. So later on, I'm also going to cover a few of the topics I frequently get asked about and get emails about on how to do. One of them is how to handle long lost overdue items, how to break the guarantor-guarantee relationship, and how to upload patron images, as well as some expired deletion patron projects. So let's go ahead and get started. So I really didn't have a big fancy PowerPoint, so I did one slide, so I hope you like it. So, all right, so most of this will be interactive within the reporting screen of Pathfinder. So every month, I know that you all need to run reports to provide your board with statistical information about the things that are going on in your library in the way of circulation. So I'm going to click right over here on the report window, and we all know that we have the statistics wizard, and it tracks all kinds of information, acquisitions, patrons, etc. But what we here at CKLS find is that we get complaints that the numbers generally just don't add up. So if you're really happy with using this, go right ahead, be my guest, but I'm going to focus on individual reports that you can generate that are going to give you probably a little bit more accurate information, and I think they're way easier to generate. So let's go up here and click on the saved, use saved.
Can you make your browser a little bit bigger? It's very tiny.
Oh, is that better?
Maybe can you zoom into that screen? Yeah, make it full screen and zoom in for us, please.
Here, hold on just one second, I'm working on it. Yep. Full screen. We're getting there. Oh, there we go. Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. Hold on a minute here. All right. Okay. So, all right. So here we are on the Save Report screen. All right, so the first thing I'd like to point out to you that we have a whole lot of tabs across the top here where the reports have generally been categorized. You can see they're different groups and then there's subgroups. So when you're looking for reports, one of the first things to ask yourself is, what am I trying to find out and what do I want to know? So let's look at the circulation tab. So in the circulation tab, we've got 26 different reports for you to use. They range from checkouts by shelving location, checkouts by collection, what have you. So if you're looking at numbers, what I have, the three that I like the most, that I think give the best outcome of what's going on, are these three right here. 1130 checkouts by collection, 1131 renewals by collection, and then the combination report. You can see that these are in the annual report subgroup as well. So let's go up here, and I'm going to run 1130. Oh, I'll just run it from here. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick the month of March for Great Bend, because they have a whole a vast variety of things going on in our library in terms of their collection. So let's drop down here, and we're going to run this. All right, so some of these reports might take a little time to run. They pull in a lot of information, but in the meantime, I want to point out to you that over the year, a couple of years, we've been trying to add this feature right here. It's a calendar for you to populate your dates. I think it's a lot easier than trying to type in the year backwards, which is something that comes from New Zealand or Europe, if you know how they do their dates. We've also put a drop-down feature for public libraries, so you can pick your branch, which I kind of like that too. So as you can see it's spinning, it's pulling in a lot of numbers. All right, so here we go. We've got the checkouts by collection for Great Bend, and this is just for the month of March. So the first thing I want to point out here is that they have some things that don't have a collection code, so I'm not really sure where they go. But they've got a really large group of things in their collection, and you can see that the movies check out the most, followed by the kids' books, with fiction as the third. And at the very bottom, you see the total number. It's a great little report. I like it a lot. Also, the next report up would be checkouts or renewals by collection. I'm not going to run that because basically it's the same thing, but it's with the renewals. So if we go back to the saved reports, I do want to run 1132. This is the one that adds up the numbers for you. Okay. I wish it had a memory for this, but it doesn't. No. It's a Great Bend. Again, I'm going to pick on them a lot. So what it does is it really gives you an instant snapshot about what's going on. You get a picture of the types of materials that patrons check out, and you also kind of get an idea of what you're buying is really meeting the patron's needs. So you're going to see with this report right here, you get the first time issues along with the renewals, and then there is a total, which is great. And if you just want to know one part of your collection, run this and you can see how your audiobooks are doing. Or I'm going to expand this out here to show you one of the things that I noticed, and I noticed when I was buying for the rotating book collection, we're not seeing the number of patrons check out video games. So in the month of March, they've only had 2 first-time issues. So if you're trying to justify whether or not this is something you want to spend money on, these reports will help you a lot in doing that. So another report that I'm going to run is your in-house circs. And I talked with the author of this report today, and it's a really good number to get a hold of when you're trying to see how things are moving in and out of within the walls of the library. So Karen Wallace wrote this report way back, and we were talking today. I'm just going to do this for a narrow time frame. That this report, when you run it, is a little deceiving because it also captures every time you check something in that hasn't been checked out. So I did kind of wonder why Great Bend had such an enormous number of movies. So anything that you run through your system that's say comes back on the courier, and you just want to make sure that the location gets assigned back to your home library, it will populate this. So we're going to try to work on this because I think it would be really helpful to you to be able to for you to have these numbers. But if you look at magazines, say you don't circulate those, or maybe these are the ones that you've found that were left out by patrons, these are numbers that are good to look at too, because it does kind of tell how people are using the library as a whole. They're coming in, maybe they're doing some research and they've taken nonfiction books off the shelf. I know some libraries, bigger libraries, have a cart that's dedicated to that in their shelves in the stack, so people can just put those things on there and they can be checked in. So stay tuned. This is going to be one that we're going to work on to see if it can work better. So you can always run some of the pill circulation reports as well. 896, I know you're familiar with. It's the borrows for a select time, as well as 897, it's the lending for a select period of time. Last year, Crystal and I were talking about what would be a good report for people to run if they weren't very good at keeping track of their courier stats. It got down to the end of the year and we had some libraries that were kind of lacking. It was tough to go back and reinvent the wheel. So if you want to run this report.
Margie, I have a comment in the chat box about the high DVD circulation at GB, and that was also because they checked in a DVD every time they pulled it out of their carousel.
Okay.
So that's just something to keep note. I think you've already made a note of that, but yeah, every time it's checked in and it says item checked in, local data recorded, that's what it is.
Great, good to know. Thanks for clearing that up, because I always wondered why that was big, but I know they have a really robust collection, so thank you for clearing that up. So let's go ahead and run this rolling report. I'll pick on Great Bend again since. All right, so what I want to point out to you that this is a rolling report. So for, let's see here. All right, so this is what, for this year, these are the numbers that are going to be valid, January, February, March. So this would be April from last year. So if what we did is ran this late in the year, and Crystal was able to go on and capture these numbers, because you can assume that if it's checked out, you probably sent this out on the courier. Now, mind you, it doesn't capture your share it stats, but again, if you were a little lax, maybe you were gone and your volunteer or whoever was covering the library didn't keep track of numbers, this is one that I think you could use with some confidence that it's going to get you close. It may not be perfect, but having some numbers is certainly better than having nothing. We don't like to see zeros in there unless you're closed. So I want you to take time to look at those circ reports. You might find some that give you a different perspective on what's going, how your collection is being utilized all across Pathfinder and within the system. All right, so moving on to patrons. I'm going to click on this tab. We have a number of patron categories, reports that are named here. Some of them are real specific to our libraries. They were created a long time ago. You can see way back when 2009 and 2010. But then you get down here and there's some that we've adapted for everyone to use. So take a look at these. I think you can learn a lot about your patrons. I'm going to run one though today that's not in there. So I'm going to click on all. This is number 1646 and it's called Checkout and Renewal by Patron and Category. So I like this report because it's packed with a whole lot of information. You'll see when it gets up and running. Just run it here for the first half of the year. Go ahead. Great Bend's my poster child, so. Again, it's bringing in a whole bunch of numbers.
I always have to tell myself or remind myself to be patient at this point. I have to look for that little swirl on the top of the tab up there.
Well, I just look at it's bringing all kinds of good numbers together. All right, so look at the top here. They have 151 results. So kind of expand this because I really think this is kind of cool. And I don't know, I like numbers. All right, so as we expand this, the adults are by far their biggest group of people that check out materials. So they check out a lot of things. It's not just, so obviously they may be checking out for their children, but they check out large print, magazines, movies. They don't have a lot of music, but if they did, I'm sure they'd be in there. audiobooks, Spanish. Get down here, there's some ILL accounts. The Institute, I'm not sure how they have that classified, that might be daycares, but it just gives you a really good idea how your different categories are using the collection. I think it's great. So it just already for the first 2 weeks of April, they've seen 4,174 items go out of the library, and that's probably across Pathfinder as well. So,
and yes, the institutions are for daycares and schools.
That's what I thought. So good users. You've got some great people out there using the collection. All right, so maybe you don't want quite this much information. That's okay too, because we've got $13.92. All right, check out renewals by patron category. Again, go here and look at the first 2 weeks of April for GB. And that just gives you a number, which is kind of nice too, if you just don't want all the breakdowns. So obviously, you have a lot of adults that are using the collection. Okay, so recently we've adapted a couple reports that can help you manage your fines and fees. I'm not going to run these reports for you today because they have patron information associated with them, and due to privacy reasons, and we are filming this and going to be archiving it, I don't want to put their name across there. But I want you to run these yourself because they will kind of give you an idea of the types of fines and fees that your library has been carrying. One of them is 511, and when I ran this is really specific to overdues. That would be the things that you're charging daily. So if your fine is 10 cents a day, that's what's going to pop up here. So you can personalize this for your branch and a date range. Go back here. Another report that you can use that's going to give you a little bit more information. Expand out to the things that I consider maybe that would be in this report, or books, materials that have been lost. That you'll find that in here. Go ahead and click on that, and it's just real specific for your library. Just pick the drop down and go. A couple things about these reports. They're populated with the addresses of your patrons, so if you want to use them for mail merging purposes, you can certainly do that. Give me a call or drop me a line and I'll tell you how to do that. There's some how-tos. It would be working with Word, where you would export this data into spreadsheet and then upload it into Word, but we'll talk about that another time. A report that Mary Beth recently wrote at the request of one of the libraries is 1717. This is a really robust report. It's got a lot of information. It does not have the amount that the patron owes, but it includes not only their name and address, but the titles of the books that the patron has checked out, or it also tells you how long they have been missing. So if you put 1 in there, this will generate everything that's been overdue. So you might want to run it and see if it's something that gives you a picture of your accounts.
Margie, I was going to just jump in and say that I've put the links to each report in the chat box, so you can click on that link and it'll take you to your staff login and you can run the reports from your computer.
Okay, and I also, the handouts, I did link them as well. If you want to go back and access them, they'll go right to the report. So regarding long lost overdues, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, because that's one of the problems that everybody struggles with on how to handle these. They want to get rid of the items, but they want to make sure that the patron's charged with them. So stay tuned, we'll talk about that. Okay, couple other ones that are nice to know about are how many patrons have been added to the system. It's nice to know that new people are coming in, they're using the libraries. We always hear that libraries aren't relevant. Well, we all know that that's not true. So here's one that you can run. It's number 1215, and it's the patron count by previous month, and it's by branch. So this will be for the month of March. I'll expand that out. All right, so you can see here, just looking at Hoisington, they added 9 new adult patrons last month. They've added 14 ILL accounts, got a couple juveniles and what have you. So nice to see that everybody across the system are adding new patrons. But maybe you don't necessarily want to know that. Maybe you want to know for the year how many you've added. So report 1210 can be used, it is by the year. So if we run this now, I believe if I run this, I've looked at this a lot, you can go back and run it for last year and get a grand total. But if we just want to see how many patrons have been added this year, you can go ahead and choose this report this way, and it'll run it. It'll tell you what you've cumulatively added for the year. So again, nice report for a lot of information, especially if you want to let your boards know how many new patrons you've added year to date. Okay, I know a lot of you use the guarantor-guarantee relationship and link accounts. We do have a report for that. I won't run it again because it does have the list of patron names, and I'm going to talk about this later on. Well, actually, I will run it because I can run it for CKLS. I'm going to use this a little bit later. All right, so we have 2 guarantors in the system and 2 guarantees. So Mary Beth is guarantor for Miss or Mr. Fake Patron, and I am the guarantor for Willie Sheppard. So later on, we're going to talk about those 2, or my account with Willie, and I'll show you how to break up that relationship.
Margie, I was going to read a comment. Joanna says that if you change a patron from one category to another, the system does count it as a new patron. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. All right, so we're going to go here and talk about our catalog and some inventory reports. One of the toughest things I know to do is to keep track of all the things in a shared consortial catalog. They're going out everywhere, hither and yon, and you know, it's really hard, and we are certainly sensitive to that. But there are a number of reports that can help you. So fear not, we're on it. But I'm really going to use this time right now to remind you to run this report frequently. It's transfers to receive, and I was going to run it for Great Bend or for CKLS today, but I discovered that we have a lot of holds that have been placed, and I don't want to I don't want you to see that information. So I am going to talk and I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is from today's transfers to receive. We have a lot of items that are coming back to CKLS for a number of reasons. Sure, there's holds. A number of these items, when you've taken them off the truck and checked them in after a patron's brought them back, it's prompting you to return them. I want to remind you that you can check no and keep that item in your library and let your patrons enjoy it for a longer time. You're certainly welcome to do that. But here, if you see something in red, like the system is set up that after 7 days, the transfer is considered late. And the only way to get these transfers to receive off this is to check items in, which I'm sure all of you know. But here we have some that are coming from Phillipsburg, and I was wondering about these because they're 11 days late. So the first thing that I would do if I saw this would be go back and check the shelves to see if these things might have gotten back here and they just didn't get checked in. And then that's certainly a possibility because we're all human. But if you can't find them, then you want to wait a little bit longer. That's perfectly fine to do. But after a while, if you see this getting longer and longer, it's a really good thing to contact the library that initiated the transfer. And the reason is that they might have initiated that transfer, but maybe they forgot to put it in a bag and send it your way. And maybe it's still on their shelf. There's just a lot of reasons why this can happen, and I think if we just communicate a little bit better amongst ourselves, we might see this transfers to receive kind of drop. It's you know, in a perfect world, everything gets checked in, but we know nothing's perfect. So
yeah, and I was just going to add to your comment about the transfer message is if you are checking in a bunch of rotating books, it's going to bring up that message. You can ignore that message, and it will assume you mean no, and it will not put the item in transit.
Yeah, because keep those out there. They don't do any good if they're sitting in the vault.
Exactly.
So yeah, to help your fellow librarians out, and if you see something lost in transit, please let them know. Let me move my screen back up here. All right, so going back to circulation and get back over here. Here's a report that's kind of interesting. It's report 867. So the home branch is different from the holding branch. I'm going to run it for us. And as we enter this information, you see that we have 8,782 items that are out there. And that's because we have this great rotating collection. It's out there in your libraries. But one of the things that I look at is this. It's the date last seen. So when I see that for us, it's telling me that we need to work this report a little bit better, because I don't think some of our things should be missing for that long. Could be a number of reasons. Maybe they weren't checked in. Maybe a patron checked them out and they're still checked out to that patron and they're lost right now. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. Let's look and see what's going on with this one. Search the catalog. So way back in 2009, this was located at Stockton. So I can probably guarantee that it maybe didn't get checked in. I don't know. Maybe it got deleted somewhere, somehow. It's fallen through the cracks. So I might want to get a hold of them and see if they actually still have it. If they do, they may want to send it back, because it might be one that we want to delete. Go back here and look at this one. All right, this one is actually lost. And the reason it's lost is when I was preparing for this presentation, I found this and it was checked out to a patron from Stockton that's been expired for quite some time. So I went ahead and checked it in, and the status is, and changed the status to lost. So if I see this, I may think, okay, it's really time to get rid of this. So what you can do is go ahead and select this box over here, go ahead and delete it. And make sure you check on this delete record and choose this right here. So it'll take the record out of the system as well as delete the holdings. Okay, so one more example. This one thinks it's in lacrosse. It could be, but you never know. You know, we're dealing with a really large collection, and I learned last year that the rotating collection is one of the hardest things to keep track of, but we're doing better. So here we are. I don't probably think that it's really still in lacrosse, but again, it probably is one we just want to delete from the catalog. Oh, go back here. Okay. All right, so another report that might be really helpful for all of you is, it's not going to be quite as large as this one. It's 1477, and it's called List of All Items Borrowed from Another Library. Run it for CKLS here. So our number is dropped to 72. So we are the holding branch, and here is the home branch. So these are things that we've borrowed and checked out to our patrons. So you can see the barcode and the issue date. And the reason I'm pointing this report out is here's some things that have been kind of missed. The issue date was last year. So if you run this report and you do some checking, here's one I can probably tell you is an ILL. We did quite a few ILL loans last year. But if you look at this report frequently, some of these things might qualify for pill replacement. So you don't want to let this go on too long, especially, you know, we've got some rules about that. I think they like you to wait for 4 months before it turns up. But you want to be able to replace the items that you borrowed from the home branch, and at least kind of visit with them to see what they'd like to do. And Missy and technical services can help you if those are things that you want to replace. You know you can't get them back from your patron. Okay, I'm going to show you a report here that's will address what things that you've added to your collection. 1015 is the list of new items added for a time period. Go ahead and see what Great Bend has added here.
We have a comment about when to start the pill replacement process, and it's between 2 and 12 months. So if it's over 2 months lost or overdue, then that's when you start doing that pill replacement process.
Yeah, and about that, you might want to, make sure you communicate with the library that is the owner of that book, because, they might have some ideas. So talk with them first.
Right. Yeah, I think that's always a good step. Is the first step is, of course, check your shelves for it. But then the next step is to contact the other library involved and have them check theirs. That's going to resolve a lot of those issues.
Okay. Right. I picked us. I want to pick Great Bend. Okay, so let's see what they've added for the first couple weeks of April. So I like this report because if I was doing collection development, I'm going to get a really quick look at the things that I have purchased and added in the collection in a certain time. So you might even want to go back a quarter, but this is showing me that they put a lot of movies in. They do really buy a lot of movies and they share them willingly across the system. These are the things that they put into the fiction collection. So I know that they may want to consider, by looking at this, maybe next month they might want to think about buying nonfiction. So it really, I think it's a great collection development tool that you might want to look at. So if you don't want to get a big look, you want to just get a smaller look at maybe one portion of your collection, you can run 1622. And it is specifically by collection. So you can see how it's broken down. You have the date that it's been purchased, the branch, and the collection. So let's see what CKLS has gotten. Let's just pick fiction. So they've only got 2 things for this month, but I'm sure more are on the way. So, okay.
Yes, more is on the way.
Yeah, more is on the way, Mary Beth. Okay. So the one last report that I want to show you has to do with, it's a weeding report, and it's kind of I found it was actually sent in I think it might have been in something I follow for Pathfinder, for Koha, but the number is 1703, and it is called Weeding Tool, Lifetime Checkouts and Checkouts During a Specified Date Range. And
Margie, I'm gonna interrupt one more time for a comment from the chat. Missy says when you're doing the pill replacement, to also make sure that the owning library really wants the item replaced. You'll see on that pill replacement form, it's asking you, have you contacted the owning library? That's very important, and we're gonna have you contact the library. You guys should be talking between each other from the get-go and work in that partnership. It's gonna make the process so much easier, so you're not paying, you're not replacing a book that they're not going to replace, or maybe it was something that they sent out one last time but knew it wasn't going to come back. So it's just something to always keep that channel of communication open.
Okay, so this weeding tool is really nice because you can get really specific. So I'm going to run this. We're going to do a weeding project for Great Bend coming up here for their nonfiction. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate this and just show you. Now, I haven't studied this real deeply, but enough to know that it can be useful. So we're going to go into their collection code nonfiction. Here's the branch. But if you ever struggle, if you're struggling with whether or not you want to take a book off the shelf because you're just not quite sure, maybe at the beginning it really circulated well, but at the last couple of years it hasn't. So you can back this up. Let's go back to January of 2014 and pick that date range to today and run this report. And when it pops up, you'll see all kinds of information. So you've got the call number, the title. That's got the accession number, all kinds of information. So you've got the first time issues, the renewals, the total times that it's circulated, and checkouts in the time period. So for the 4-year checkout time period, this particular item hasn't gone out at all. So you might say, or it's actually gone out one, and this is the last time. So 2015. Run this report, look at it, kind of use it for your collections. I do think it tells you a lot in terms of, so here's one. It's a popular one, Windows for Dummies. Sure, it's gone out 18 times and it's still moving right along, but it was put in, and it's been put into the collection 2 years ago. It's still popular. But look at Microsoft Office 13. No one's interested. So if you're struggling with something like that, this will help you and maybe justify what you think what you really want to do with this. This one you can see is still checked out, so it's probably in their long lost overdues. Okay.
Margie, I have a question. It's why is this better than a super weeder, or is it the same information?
I think that this actually includes, you can get really specific by your collection. You can narrow it down. You can see the lifetime checkouts, and also how many times it was checked out in a narrower period. So I've used all of them. I kind of like this one because you can really get it narrow. If you just want to look at your, however your collection is divided, maybe whether or not it's better or not, it's going to be kind of personal. I haven't really used this in a library. I just like to look at it. We've done some weedings. Well, actually, we've used our super weeders to do a push team recently, and there's a variety of those in there that could also work for you. But it's just a new one, and I thought it kind of brought a lot of information together that some of our weeding reports don't.
Gail says it's a bite size of information. You can narrow it down a lot more than the super weeder. So
Thanks. Okay. All right. So that concludes this part. So we're going to move on to part 2. I'm going to go in here. So long lost overdues are something that all of you have to deal with. And first of all, I want to point out that you kind of need to be realistic about the amount of time that and effort you really want to spend on trying to collect some of these fees. And it's what's the reality that you're really going to collect it. But the second thing I also want you to consider is how the catalog is impacted when we leave items that have been long lost and overdue for 3, 4, 5 years left into the database. But there is a way to go about charging a patron account for long lost overdue items, so that you can then go ahead and get rid of the item that's truly not there anymore, but it's still going to be on the patron account. So if that patron ever comes back or they go into another library, you can see that they have a debt to settle. So this report is 1672. And I'm going to go ahead and run this. I'm going to run it for CKLS. And you can see here that we have some things that are long lost overdue. Fake patrons got one, Hayes, etc. One really important thing about this particular thing is that you have to have the replacement price populated. Mary Beth's been working on doing that after we had a Pathfinder meeting last year. We arrived at some amounts. If you don't want our amount populated in there, please put this in when you're adding things in the catalog. It'll help you a lot when you're trying to reconcile this. So you can see we have this patron right here by the name of Willie Sheppard, and he has some things that are long lost and overdue. He's got those darn squirrels, the mouse and the lion, and the lion and the mouse. So let's look at Willie and see what's going on with him. And there he is. Willie Sheppard is a cat, but he's a really well-read cat. So I want to go ahead and brag on the details of this account, since we're getting ready we're encouraging everybody to start using those great patron cards that Crystal got for you. Willie has a very well-populated account. Not only does he have a name and address, he's got a phone number, he has a email account, and he is got it all going here. So, but that's not why I'm going to talk to you about Willie. He is also at these checkouts that are long lost overdue. So we really need to take care of this because we just want to get them get them out of the catalog. So go ahead and click on the barcode, and that's going to bring you up to this information screen about this item. And you will see right here this long lost status. If you go ahead and click on this, go up here into the null category and set this status, it's going to check this item back in. I go ahead and go back in and reset the status, and you'll see Willie's name has disappeared from the screen. So I want to go in and find this. We're going to go back to our last borrower, and here you see that Willie now only has 2 checkouts, but he also has fees and charges. He has outstanding fees and charges of $20, and it's going to give some options over here. So say you want to know what he really lost or he is, got charged for. If you click into the find window, it's going to give you everything that you wanted to know about that item. Even after you delete it, it's still going to stay there.
So when you cleared it out and then rechecked long lost overdue, the system automatically generated this replacement fee. That was based on the replacement cost.
Right. It automatically charges that patron account with the item. It checks it in, and you can go on about removing it from the system. So I'm not sure if any of you have noticed this, if you've seen it, but the details then will show you.
So we have 2 questions.
Okay.
One is they would like to see you do the long lost overdue again, please.
Oh, I will.
And then the next one is can other patrons still place hold on this item?
Not if it's in the long lost overdue. If you go in and you look at that item, you'll see a black or like a red check mark. They won't be able to do that. But the idea is that once you do this, please go in and delete that item out of the catalog. Don't leave it. I mean, it doesn't serve any purpose, especially if you know that it's not coming back. Because the other thing is, let's say you do replace it, or you decide, or it does come back one day, you can easily add it back in, or if you do want to go about replacing it, chances are the record is changed. If it's an older copy, maybe someone has gone ahead and added more fields in the record. So we'd rather have a more current record than an older record. So I'm going to do this again, and actually in my handouts, I have a step-by-step that you can look at on how to do this. So
and the next question is, if we delete the record, the info still stays in the patron's account?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it'll still be there. Mm-hmm. It'll still tell you the name of the book and what was lost or what you've charged against them. Okay, so here he has the mouse and the lion. So from this report, it will lead you to the patron, and you go in to find their checkouts, and you'll see this long lost overdue. So we're going to click on the barcode, I think. Okay, it's the information page. So you go to the lost status, click on this, go up here to the null, and set the status.
At that point, it's still checked out to Willie.
Right, you see it's still checked out to him. Then by putting it back into the long lost overdue lost status, it checks the item in.
But okay, can you click on the normal tab on this record so we can see what it looks like when it's displayed from a normal search?
Yes.
So we see that the status says long lost overdue. Okay, right. So that way we know that, yep, they cannot place a hold on that.
Right, so there it is. Now I'm not going to delete these because these books are over here over my shoulder, but if they were really long lost, this is where I would go ahead and take care of that. I would get rid of them.
I thought these were books that you made up. I thought they were cat-related books.
Yeah. No, I went back into our robust collection and said, hey, what would a cat like? So, all right. So now we're going to go back, and you can see your last borrower to make sure if you're unsure. And now he has $40 worth of fees. So that cat's going to need to get a job. You want me to do it one more time? Okay. So now you see he has one thing checked out. And in the Finds tab, here we have it. here's what is owed.
We can see now that the mouse and lion was added, so it's different than the last screen. That's very good. Yes.
Okay. So one more thing. We'll do it again. And I've done this for, I think, a few libraries I've showed this, and they're just really happy because they know that they didn't want to keep carrying these things around in the catalog, but they know the possibility that a patron would go someplace else and try to library hop. And then if you would see this and you could send them back to have that addressed. So again, we're going to go here and find this little book. Here's poor Willie. And we're going to set that status and reset it. And it's been checked in, and you could go about deleting it. So, okay. Any more questions about that?
I do not see any in the chat box.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to Willie because he has something I want to show you. I'm going to go into the detail screen. So I am the guarantor of Willie's account. And if you run, I'm going to go over here to run.
Oh, Crystal wants to see the total fines for Willie when you go back to that.
Okay, I'll show you. So one of the things that it's always nice to do is frequently run your guarantor guarantee linked account report. And there's a couple reasons why. Say you want to delete expired patrons. If they have this status set, you can't delete them. So it has to be, the relationship has to be broken. That's one thing. Let's say that your patron age is up. They're no longer, they're an adult. You might want to know how to break this. And, you know, I know that a lot of us want to do this because they just want to keep track of the collection, but do bear in mind that your guarantee, the kids do have the right to some privacy as well. So, you know, think about that in terms of setting this up. And while it's a convenient thing for you, it is also something that we have to be sensitive about, you know, their privacy. All right, so I am the guarantor of Willie's account. So you can go ahead and click on me and you can see that. So we need to do this from the guarantee's perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Willie. He's now an adult cat. He's no longer, he's 18. And so Crystal, there you can see at the top of the screen, he has $60 of outstanding charges. So poor cat. So there's a couple of ways of going about this. You can either click up here to edit, or you can go right under here under the guarantor name and click edit. You'll see
that darn cat is the comment about Willie.
Yeah. So you'll see that I'm the mother relationship with this cat, and I'm going to delete this now. So we're going to click on delete.
It's because you don't want to pay that $60 fine.
That's right. I know, he's done with him. So, but I want to remind you, delete it, but save it. So immediately we're going to go and we're going to see this, and it no longer is here. So if we don't have the relationship anymore.
And it's no longer on your side either.
No, it's no longer on my side either. And this has been made infinitely more simple than what it was before. So it's just an easy step to do. I actually had, I think Joanna today, we're working on kind of correcting some of the strange things with her patrons. Somehow some of her guarantees have turned into guarantors. So I'm kind of working on this, but always work on the side of the guarantee, not the guarantor. So if you want to see, I can bring me up. Oh. Here's me. I'm no longer associated with his account, so it's unlinked. So it's pretty simple. We always thought it was really hard, but again, needs to be done in order to delete these accounts. So it's just a little cleanup task that sometimes we just have to do those things. So
we have a comment of yay from the chat box.
Yeah, so don't be afraid. Break those up. So one of the things that I like about this is we've got a picture of this guy. So if he came into your library and you did all the right things to see that this was really Willie's account, you also can verify him by his look. And he's got a very distinct look about him. So Sometimes we've used this to put funny cartoon pictures and all that. Since we're using one patron, one account, and other patrons can now walk into other libraries, try to find pictures of your patrons that actually represent them. I mean, take a picture of them. So I'm going to show you how to do that with my account. So here I am. I don't have a picture. I know so how do we get the picture of the patron? Well, there's a couple things. You can use a webcam. Some of you may or may not have that. If you're interested in getting one, Andy can give you some options that are inexpensive. These is something you can plug into your patron or to your circulation computer and go ahead and take a picture of your patron while they're standing there, kind of similar to what they do maybe at the Driver's License Bureau. Make sure then that you tag that picture on your desktop file with their name. Notice right here, these are the formats that this accepts. I'm pretty sure that that wouldn't be a problem, but just want to point that out to you. But let's say you don't have the camera, that you really still want to do this. You can really easily do this by taking a picture with your smartphone and then emailing it to the library, which is what I actually did. I had a picture that I just emailed myself. So there's a couple easy ways around that. You know, if you don't have a smartphone, maybe your patron does and they want to do it, but this can be done. So the first thing that you need to do, once you know that you've got the image located on your desktop, is to choose the file. And what I did is I emailed this to me and then downloaded it onto my desktop. So we're going to choose a file, and it's named, easily can find it because it has my name on it. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. And what it's going to do is it's going to say right here and verify that you've uploaded that file accurately. And there it is. So click upload. And there I am. It's pretty simple.
Is there a size limit for the size of the file?
I've not encountered that. I just cropped it to make it, you know, I mean, you certainly wouldn't want a huge file. You want to taper that down. But even when I was researching this on the Pathfinder and it didn't really say that. So be mindful of that. You wouldn't want a huge file, but because it probably wouldn't come across right. But so, you know, it's pretty easy to do. I've had a couple libraries already talk to me about this and have sent a couple tutorials out. There is one in the file from today's presentation. So
okay.
Yeah, go ahead and start using it.
I have a comment from the chat. Karen LaPierre from Hoisington said that they use profile pics from social media when the patron gives their okay. I know Hoisington does take photos of their patrons when they come in, so if they don't want their photo taken at that point, they get the patron's okay to use a picture from their social media account.
Oh, that's a great idea. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate that.
I think that's very important, that with the patrons okay.
Yeah, gotta have the permission. That's right. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is expired patron deletion. So so Pathfinder, I kind of want to caution you. We have over 50,000 patrons in our database. Last year, Great Bend took the lead. They deleted 6,000 expired patrons, and they kept the time frame of 3 years. So anything greater than 3 years, they got rid of. And I just did it again for them and got rid of 1,000.
When we say greater than 3 years, you mean they've been expired for more than 3 years?
Yeah, expired for greater than 3 years. I did this for Palco. They sent me a file. I think a couple other, Lebanon and let's see, Jewel. They just did this. And what they had me do was delete, the smaller libraries deleted all the expired patrons, because this way when the patron came in, they were able to create a new account using the new patron card, which I thought was pretty smart on their part. That was certainly their idea, not mine. I didn't really have anything to do with what they chose to do. But what I did encounter when I was helping them with their projects was the patrons that had things checked out, those had to be checked in. Those that had the guarantor relationship were linked accounts, those relationships had to be broken up. So it can be done. So if you're interested in kind of looking at that, we do have a report for your expired patrons that you can run. Again, I'm not going to run it, but it's 1569. It's going to give you a complete list. And what you can do is export this into a spreadsheet and take out the ones that you don't want deleted and send them my way, and I can do that from here. But part of the thing is, we have only so much life in our ILS, and if you are interested in keeping a database of all your expired patrons, you can easily export this and save this in a file on your own desktop for your computer, or, but just help us kind of keep Koha Pathfinder clean. It's just something that, we're always looking at, and the more things that we have in it, the little tired it gets and it runs slower. So if we can all work together, be happy to help you work on some of that. So I think I've kind of come to the end of this. If you have any questions, I know you've been asking some really good ones, and I appreciate it.
I'm going to link the handouts one more time because it's going to walk everybody through all these reports that Margie's gone through.
And I want to reach out to those of you that if you have a report that you use, let me know and I can share it with everybody. Or if you have an idea for a report that would help everybody, let me know that too. Hoisington has some great reports, and they've given permission that I can take those and make them available for everybody. So, we're constantly trying to make this better for you and help you. And I know we have some reports that do the same thing. So, I'm just looking at them more and more. And if you can help me, then that will help everybody. So.
Okay, and we keep tally of everybody that's logged in, so we can make sure you get CE credit for it. So we have somebody logged in as Zoom, and if Zoom could either answer in chat or your microphone is unmuted and tell us who you are, that would be great. Okay, and I will also make a note that what we do with, what Margie does with record report cleanup is she tries to put that drop down where you pick your library in every report, and if there's a date, she tries to put that calendar button on every report. Right. So if you have a favorite report that she hasn't gotten to yet, you might just drop her a line and let her know.
Yeah, please let me know. Okay. Well, it was a pleasure. I hope you learned something. I did.
Yeah, it was good.
Thank you, Margie.
You're
that was
welcome.
awesome.
Thanks.
I even took lots of notes.
Awesome. We have a couple people saying, Russell, Jessica from Russell says, that was fantastic. So
well, thank you.
Excellent.
Well, let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Just please drop me a line or call me, or, and if you're running some of those and you want me to log in with you, I can kind of take you through it, especially that guarantee thing or charging the long lost overdues. Be happy to talk you through that, and, from here. So.
Yep, and I will, I recorded this session, so I will be posting this hopefully by the end of this week, but we'll get posted on very soon, and then you'll see it on the CKLS Google members email.
I've got to say, I, as a librarian, love these Tuesdays with CKLS. I don't know how everybody else is feeling about them, but I love them. I just love them.
I do too. Good. I also want to put out there, and you guys don't have to answer now, but let us know if you like the 1:30 time better, or if you like the 10 o'clock time better. We're still trying to find what is best for everybody, so let us know.
Yeah, and coming up the pipe next month, we've had a little change in schedule, but I will update that on the website. Mary Beth's going to talk about Google and everything googly. That would be for May, and in June we're going to have a panel discussion on the documents that you need to keep in your library. And then in July, Patty and I are going to talk with you about some intellectual freedom tough conversations. So that's coming down for the next few months in 2018. So thanks.
It looks everybody. Like a lot of responses are liking the 1:30 time period. So
oh, good.
Excellent.
Great. Well, yeah. I got to sleep in this morning. So okay.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you.